Destiny has a strange way of collecting debts from the past. There are wounds we believe buried beneath years of silence, but they bleed in secret, waiting for the exact moment to remind us who we were and who we stopped being. This is the story of a young man who fled his town with a shattered heart, who abandoned his roots trying to escape the pain, but discovered you cannot run forever from what is carved into your soul. Because when life tears away what you love most, there are only two paths. Let yourself die while still living, or find the courage to look into the eyes of the monster that stole everything. Matthew Garrett chose the second path. And that decision would lead him back to Wind Valley, back to the arena where his father fell 7 years ago, back to the encounter with a black beast with sharpened horns that everyone knew as Black Lightning, the bull that had never been broken, the animal that had made his mother a widow and turned a 13-year-old boy into an orphan. This is a story about the price of fear and the cost of courage. A story where the dust of a rodeo arena mixes with tears of rage and sweat of redemption. Welcome to a tale of blood, honor, and destiny. Stay with us until the end, and discover how a son decided to complete what his father could not finish. The red dirt roads leading to Wind Valley had not changed in 7 years. The same dry hills beneath the merciless sun, the same twisted cacti guarding desert secrets, the same distant mountains that looked like sleeping giants on the horizon. But Matthew Garrett was no longer the same. He drove his old pickup truck along the dusty road, gripping the wheel with hands that had forgotten the texture of a riding rope but remembered perfectly the feel of tools in city workshops. He was 20 years old now, no longer the skinny, frightened boy who had left. The city had hardened him, given him muscles working construction, taught him to hide his emotions behind a mask of indifference. But inside, deep within his chest, he remained that 13-year-old boy who watched his father die in a rodeo arena. Wind Valley was a town where time moved to the rhythm of seasons, not clocks. A place where everyone knew each other by name and story, where country traditions were respected like sacred laws, where the rodeo was not just a spectacle but the very heart of the community. It was land of cowboys and riders, of sun-weathered men who measured their worth in seconds on the back of a fierce bull. Vincent Garrett had been the king of that arena. Tall as an oak, strong as iron, with hands that could tame the wildest animal and a smile that could calm storms. For Matthew, his father was not just a man. He was a living god, an invincible hero who collected trophies the way others collect memories. But even gods can fall. Matthew remembered that day as if it were yesterday. The excitement of watching his father prepare to ride a new bull they were bringing from a northern ranch. "They call him Black Lightning," one of the ranch hands had said. "They say he's got a mean streak, but your dad can handle anything." His father had knelt before him before entering the arena, ruffled his hair tenderly and said, "Son, when I finish this ride, we'll celebrate with your mom's tamales. And next year, if you keep practicing, maybe I'll let you ride your first calf in public." Those were the last words Vincent spoke to his son. What happened next was a nightmare Matthew would relive thousands of times. His father had ridden well the first 5 seconds, dominating the animal's jumps and turns with a champion's mastery. But then the bull executed a treacherous movement, a violent twist no rider could anticipate. Vincent fell, and before he could get up, Black Lightning turned on him with demonic fury. The horns pierced the man's chest. The hooves crushed ribs. The crowd's terrified screams mixed with the animal's bellow in a symphony of horror. Matthew had tried to run toward the arena, but strong hands held him back. He screamed until his voice gave out. He cried until he had no tears left. And when they finally let him approach his father's body, something inside him died too. Vincent Garrett was buried with his silver spurs and his charro hat. The entire town attended the funeral. But for Matthew, none of that mattered. His world had collapsed, and Wind Valley had become a cemetery of painful memories. 2 months after the burial, Matthew announced to his mother that he was leaving. Martha, with a broken heart but understanding her son's pain, gave him her blessing and the last of her savings. "Go, son. Find your peace. But remember you'll always have a home here." For 7 years, Matthew lived like a ghost in the city. He worked at whatever he could: construction, mechanic shops, warehouses, anything that allowed him to survive. He never went to another rodeo. He never spoke of his father. He buried that part of his life so deep he almost convinced himself it had never existed. But a month ago, His mother's letter arrived like lightning in a clear sky. Matthew, I'm ill. It's not serious, but I need to see you. It's been 7 years, son. It's time to come home. And now here he was, passing the weathered sign that said, Welcome to Wind Valley, feeling how each yard brought him closer to the past he had tried to forget. His mother's house stood at the end of a quiet street. The small adobe construction looked older, more fragile, as if it too had aged with the absence. Matthew parked the truck and sat for a moment, breathing deeply, preparing himself. When he finally knocked on the door, it was Martha who opened. His mother had aged more than 7 years should allow. Her hair completely white, her back slightly hunched, her hands trembling. But her eyes, those eyes Matthew inherited, still shone with the same unconditional love. Mother and son embraced in silence. The tears spoke for them. Thank you for coming back, son, Martha whispered. The house has been so lonely without you. I'm here now, Mom. I won't leave you alone again. The first few days passed in comforting tranquility. Matthew repaired the backyard fence, fixed the roof leaks, painted the walls that time had worn down. Martha cooked her son's favorite meals and told him the town gossip, slowly rebuilding the bond that years of absence had weakened. But Matthew avoided walking through the town center. He avoided running into acquaintances. And above all, he avoided approaching the grounds where circuses and rodeos were held. One afternoon, while Matthew was helping his mother in the garden, he heard cheerful music and excited shouts coming from the main street. Martha looked up with a worried expression. It's the circus, son. It comes every year around this time. Matthew felt his stomach tighten. A circus meant rodeo. Rodeo meant bulls. And bulls meant memories he preferred to keep buried. You don't have to go, son. You can stay here at home. I know, Mom, Matthew replied, but something inside him had awakened. A dark curiosity, a calling he could not ignore. The next day, without telling his mother, Matthew walked toward the grounds where the circus had set up camp. It was the North Star Circus, according to the signs. A large red and gold tent rose majestically, surrounded by corrals with horses and bulls, trailers and trucks. Matthew slowly approached the corrals, observing the animals with a mixture of fascination and fear.
The horses neighed softly, but it was the bulls that captured his attention. Large, powerful, magnificent. And also terrible. Impressive, aren't they? Said a voice behind him. Matthew turned and saw a young ranch hand, friendly-looking, approaching with a smile. Yes, they are, Matthew responded cautiously. I'm Hake, I work here. Are you from town? Haven't seen you before. I was born here, but I left years ago. Just got back. They chatted briefly about the circus and the animals. Hake told him enthusiastically about the exhibitions they would have that night. But then pointed toward a separate corral, set apart from the others. That one over there is special. His name is Black Lightning. Is the most dangerous bull we have. Nobody's ridden him the full 8 seconds in 7 years. The name fell on Matthew like a mare. Black Lightning. His father's killer. He was here. Just a few yards away. Did you say? Black Lightning. Matthew's voice came out barely as a whisper. Yeah, is famous throughout the circuit. They say he killed a rider years ago, in this very town. Since then, nobody's been able to break him. Sebastian, the circus owner, says he's a cursed animal. Matthew walked as if hypnotized toward the separate corral. And there saw him. The bull was bigger than I remembered, completely black except for a white patch chapped like a lightning bolt on his forehead, hence his name. The horns were long and sharp as spears. And his eyes, his small, dark eyes seemed to shine with malevolent intelligence. When the animal noticed his presence, he snorted loudly and scraped the ground with a of rushing dust. Matthew and the bull stared at each other, and in that moment, something changed inside the young man. All the pain, rage, frustration had kept for 7 years crystallized into a single thought. I'm going to rid this beast. I'm going to complete what my father couldn't finish. Did you know the rider killed? Asked Hake, who had approached. Matthew took a moment to respond. It was my father. The silence that followed was heavy as a stone slab. Jake says widened with surprise and compassion. I'm so sorry, brother. I didn't know you were. Matthew Garrett. Son of Vincent Garrett. My God. Your father was a legend. Everyone in the circus knows his story. He was the one who came closest to breaking Black Lightning. He made it to 7 seconds, more than anyone else. I want to read him, Matthew said suddenly, surprising himself with his own words. What? No, brother, you can't be serious. That bullies. I want to read the Black Lightning. Tonight. In the rodeo. Jake looked at him as if he had lost his mind. You need to talk to Sebastian. He's the one who decides. But I'm warning you, he won't agree. That bull has injured too many riders. Then take me to him. Jake led Matthew to a large trailer that served as the circus owner's office. Sebastian was a man of about 60 years, with a well-groomed grey mustache and the posture of someone who has spent his entire life in the rodeo world. When Jake explained who Matthew was and what he wanted to do, Sebastian's face transformed completely. Garrett. You're Vincent's son, it wasn't a question, it was a statement loaded with emotion. Your father was one of the best riders I've known. His dad was. Sebastian didn't finish the sentence, but he didn't need to. I want to read the Black Lightning tonight, Matthew said with a firm voice. It's something I need to do. Sebastian leaned back in his chair, studying the young man before him with penetrating eyes. Son, I understand what you're feeling. I understand the desire for revenge, for justice, to close wounds. But you need to know something. In the 7 years since your father died, 53 riders have attempted to read the Black Lightning. Not a single one has completed the 8 seconds. A 10 ended up in the hospital. 3 were left with permanent injuries. That bull isn't just dangerous, it's as if he has hatred inside him. My father made it to 7 seconds, Matthew responded. That means it's possible. And if there is anyone who can complete what started, it's me. I carry his blood. Sebastian sighed deeply. Have you ever ridden a bull, son? My father started teaching me when I was 10. I rode cabs and colts for 3 years, until he died. I know the basic techniques. Cabs aren't the same as Black Lightning. That animal seems to enjoy hurting people. I'm not asking for permission, sir. I'm informing you of what I'm going to do. With or without your authorization, I'll find a way to face that bull. The determination in Matthew's eyes was unshakable. Sebastian recognized that look. He had seen it before in Vincent Garrett's eyes. You're just like your father. The same stubbornness, the same fear. I suppose there is no point trying to dissuade you. Sebastian stood up. All right. If you're going to do this, at least let me prepare you properly. The rodeo begins at 8. Black Lightning is always the last ride. That gives you 5 hours to prepare. Sebastian took Matthew to a large tent that served as a dressing room. There were other riders there, men of different ages preparing for their rides, adjusting protectors, conversing with each other with that special camaraderie of those who share the same danger. The circus owner handed him a padded protective vest. Put it on. It's no guarantee of anything, but it might save your ribs if you fall badly. And son, you're going to fall. The question isn't whether you will fall, but when. Matthew put on the vest, feeling its weight on his chest. Then he took out something he had brought wrapped in a cloth, his father's silver spurs. The same ones Vincent wore on his last ride. Sebastian recognized them instantly. His eyes moistened. Vincent's spurs. I remember them well. They were made by Master Rodriguez, right? Yes, sir. My father cared for them like a treasure. I want to use them tonight. I want to feel like he's with me. He will be, son. I have no doubt. During the following hours, Sebastian and Jake gave him detailed instructions. Gripping techniques, body position, how to anticipate the bull's movements, how to fall without getting tangled in the rope. Black Lightning as a pattern, Sebastian explained. The first 4 seconds he jumps and spins in a relatively predictable way. But after, when he senses the rider is finding the rhythm, he makes his deadly move. A violent twist in the opposite direction, followed by a spinning jump. That's where everyone falls. Your father almost made it because he anticipated the movement, but it wasn't enough. Then he know what to expect, said Matthew. Knowing and being able to react are different things. That movement happens in a fraction of a second. It requires not only skill, but also instinct. And luck. Matthew nodded, absorbing every word as if his life depended on it. Because it literally did. At 6 in the evening, Sebastian gave him one last piece of advice. Go home. Eat something light. Say goodbye to your mother, just in case. And come back an hour before the rodeo. I'll be waiting for you. Matthew drove back home with a knot in his stomach. When he entered, he found Martha preparing dinner. His mother greeted him with a smile that faded when she saw the expression on her son's face. Son, what's wrong? Matthew sat at the table and took his mother's hands between his.
Mom, I need to tell you something. I went to the circus this morning and discovered that Black Lightning is here. The bull that killed Dad. And I'm going to ride him tonight. The color disappeared from Martha's face. She brought a hand to her chest, her eyes filled with tears. No, Matthew, no. Please don't make me go through this again. I already lost your father. I can't lose you too. You're all I have left. Matthew felt his heart breaking, but his determination did not waver. Mom, listen to me. For 7 years I've lived like a ghost. I've carried the weight of not being able to do anything while Dad died. I've lived with fear, with rage, with a feeling of being incomplete. If I don't do this, if I don't face that bull, I'll never be able to be the man I should be. I need to close this circle, not just for Dad, but for myself. Martha cried in silence, knowing that nothing she said would change her son's decision. She saw in his eyes the same determination she had seen so many times in her husband's eyes. If you're going to do this, then I'm going with you. If my son is going to face his destiny, his mother will be there to see it. Matthew hugged his mother tightly, grateful for her understanding. Before leaving, Matthew entered the room that had belonged to his father. There, hanging on the wall, was Vincent's charro hat. Matthew took it with trembling hands and placed it on his head. It was a bit large, but feeling it was like receiving an embrace from beyond. When they left for the circus, the sun began to descend, painting the sky orange and red. Colors of fire. Colors of blood. Colors of destiny. The circus grounds were completely transformed. Thousands of people filled the stands, excited for the spectacle. Colored lights illuminated the central arena, creating a brilliant circle on the packed earth. The air vibrated with music, laughter, the smell of fried food, and the palpable anticipation of seeing men face fierce beasts. Matthew took his mother to the stands, settled her in a good spot, and gave her a kiss on the forehead. Pray for me, Mom. I haven't stopped doing so since you told me, son. Matthew headed to the riders' area where Sebastian was waiting for him. The circus owner helped him finish preparing, adjusted his equipment, checked the spurs. Remember, when you fall, let go immediately. Don't try to recover your balance at the last moment. My best ranch hands will be ready to distract the bull while you run toward the fence. Matthew nodded, his throat too dry to speak. The rodeo began. One after another, the riders mounted their bulls. Some completed the 8 seconds and received ovations. Others fell before and had to run for their lives. It was a spectacle of pure courage, of man against beast, of will against brute force. Matthew watched each ride attentively, studying the movements, trying to learn something that might be useful. But his mind kept returning to one image. His father falling in this same arena 7 years ago. The rides passed. 15, 16, 17. Each one brought Matthew closer to his moment of truth. His heart beat so hard he could hear it above the crowd's noise. Finally, the moment arrived. The announcer made a dramatic pause before announcing with a solemn voice. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for has arrived. The last ride of the night. But this is no ordinary ride. Because tonight, after 7 years, the son of Vincent Garrett returns to face the same bull that took his father from him. Ladies and gentlemen, with you, Matthew Garrett riding Black Lightning. The entire stadium erupted in a mixture of astonishment, excitement, and fear. Everyone knew the story. Everyone knew what was at stake. Matthew walked toward the chutes, feeling the weight of thousands of eyes upon him. Sebastian walked by his side, giving him final words of encouragement. Whatever happens out there, you're already a champion just for having the courage to try. Your father would be proud. Matthew climbed onto the platform above the chute. He looked down and there was Black Lightning, hitting the metal walls with his horns, snorting with fury, waiting for his chance to destroy another Garrett. Matthew took off his father's hat for a moment and looked toward the night sky. The stars shone intensely, like silent witnesses to what was about to happen. Dad, if you can hear me, give me your strength. Help me complete what you started. Not for revenge, but to honor your memory. To prove that your son is worthy of carrying your name. He put the hat back on, breathed deeply, and began to descend onto the bull's back. Contact with Black Lightning's back was like touching a high-voltage wire. The animal shuddered violently, feeling the rider's weight. Matthew wrapped the rope firmly around his left hand, tested the grip, adjusted his position. His legs clung to the bull's sides, his father's spurs firmly attached to his boots. He closed his eyes for one last second. In his mind, images flashed rapidly. His father teaching him to ride, his father smiling at him with pride, his father falling in this arena. The pain, the love, the fear, the courage, everything merged into a single emotion. He opened his eyes, looked forward with clenched jaw, and nodded his head. The chute gate burst open. Black Lightning exploded toward the arena like a black tornado. The first jump was brutal. Matthew felt as if all his bones vibrated, as if his brain bounced inside his skull. The bull bellowed with blood-chilling fury, a primal sound of uncontrolled power. 1. The bull dug the ground and rose in the air, his body turning violently to the right. Matthew held on with all his strength, his free hand extended toward the sky, his body moving instinctively with each shake. 2. Black Lightning executed a sharp turn to the left. Matthew shifted his weight to compensate, maintaining precarious balance. Dust rose in golden clouds under the lights. 3. The bull jumped higher, his hind legs kicking the air. Matthew felt his body separate from the back for a fraction of a second, but managed to maintain contact, his legs squeezing harder. 4. A series of short, rapid jumps, each designed to destabilize the rider. Matthew felt his arms burning, his fingers going numb, but he couldn't think about that. Only the bull existed. Only the need to stay mounted one more second existed. The crowd began to scream excitedly. This unknown young man was achieving the impossible. 5. Black Lightning bellowed with renewed fury, as if the animal realized this rider was different. The bull rose in a jump that seemed to defy gravity. Matthew felt weightlessness but maintained his grip. 6. The entire arena exploded in screams. Matthew Garrett was only 2 seconds away from achieving what no other rider had accomplished in 7 years. In the stands, Martha had her eyes closed, her lips moving in silent prayer, the rosary clutched between her hands. 7. Matthew felt the change. The bull decreased intensity for a fraction of a second, preparing. And then he remembered, a violent twist in the opposite direction, followed by a spinning jump. The deadly move was coming, the same one that had killed his father. When Black Lightning began the turn, Matthew was already moving his body in anticipation. Not perfectly, no human could. He felt his balance break, gravity beginning to claim him. But in that critical instant, he felt something extraordinary. Invisible hands over his, giving him renewed strength. It was his father. He couldn't see him, couldn't touch him, but he felt him with absolute certainty. Vincent Garrett was there with his son, completing together what he couldn't complete alone. With that supernatural strength, Matthew adjusted his grip in a fraction of a second, moved his weight almost miraculously. When Black Lightning completed his spinning jump, Matthew was still mounted. 8. The judge's whistle sounded loud and clear. For a moment, time stopped. Then, the entire arena erupted in the most deafening roar those walls had ever heard. The crowd stood up, screaming, crying, embracing. It was a moment of pure glory, of cosmic justice being restored. Matthew released the rope and let himself fall, rolling on the arena. The ranch hands entered to distract the bull while he ran toward the fence. He had done it. Against all odds, he had done it. He leaned against the fence, his legs trembling, his breathing coming in gasps. But his heart was filled with a peace he had never experienced before. Sebastian was the first to arrive, with tears running down his face. "You did it, son. By God, you really did it. Your father would be so proud." Jake and the other ranch hands lifted him on their shoulders, carrying him back to the center of the arena. The announcer, with a voice broken by emotion, made the official announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in 7 years, Black Lightning has been broken. Matthew Garrett has completed the 8 seconds and is proclaimed champion of the night. This moment will be etched in rodeo history forever." Matthew searched through the crowd and found his mother. Martha was standing, her hands over her heart, her face illuminated by a radiant smile through tears. But then something unexpected happened. Black Lightning, who had been led almost to his corral, stopped. The bull turned his enormous head and looked back, toward the arena where Matthew still stood. The stadium fell silent. The bull gently freed himself from the ropes and began walking back toward the center of the arena. The ranch hands followed at a distance, ready to intervene, but something in the animal's behavior was different. Matthew saw the bull coming. His first instinct was to step back, but something stopped him. There was something in the way Black Lightning moved that was not threatening. The bull stopped in front of Matthew, barely a few yards away. Both looked into each other's eyes, man and beast, enemies who had just fought an epic battle. And then, Black Lightning did something extraordinary. Slowly, with an almost majestic dignity, the bull lowered his head, in what seemed to be a gesture of respect, of acknowledgement. Matthew, with tears running down his cheeks, slowly extended his hand. The bull remained still, allowing his fingers to brush his powerful black forehead. In that contact, Matthew felt something release. The hatred he had kept for 7 years vanished like smoke in the wind. "Thank you," Matthew whispered. "Thank you for giving me the chance to face my fears." The bull snorted softly, then turned around and walked back to his corral without resistance. It was as if he knew his purpose had been fulfilled, that the story begun 7 years ago had finally found its conclusion. The following days were a whirlwind. Matthew's feat became legend. Local newspapers published the story of the son who avenged his father. Radio talked about the rider who had tamed the invincible Black Lightning. Strangers stopped him on the street to congratulate him. But for Matthew, the real victory was not in the fame. It was in something much deeper. For the first time in 7 years, he could sleep without nightmares. For the first time in 7 years, he could think about his father without the pain paralyzing him. 3 days after the rodeo, Sebastian arrived at his house with a package. "Matthew, I've been in this business for 40 years. And in all that time, I've never seen anything like what you did that night. You didn't just break a bull. You transformed a tragedy into triumph." He unwrapped the package. Inside was a champion's belt, a beautiful piece of leather with silver inlays, with a buckle that read, "Matthew Garrett, Tamer of Black Lightning, Champion." "I can't accept this, Sebastian." "Of course you can. You earned it fairly. And I have something else to tell you. My circus needs good riders. I want you to join us. We'd travel all over the country. You'd become a professional rider. I'd pay you well and you'd honor your father's legacy." It was a tempting offer. Being a professional rider had been his childhood dream. But Matthew had changed. "Sebastian, you don't know how much I appreciate your offer. But riding Black Lightning was something I needed to do to close a chapter. I don't think rodeos are my future. My mother needs me here. This town needs me. And I need to build my own life, not just follow in my father's footsteps, but create my own." Sebastian nodded with understanding. "You're a wise young man, Matthew. Many would have jumped at the opportunity for fame. But you understand something few comprehend. That true happiness isn't in chasing glory but in finding your place in the world. I respect your decision." Before leaving, Sebastian shared one last piece of news. Since that night, Black Lightning has changed. He's no longer aggressive. My ranch hands say it's as if something calmed down in him. It's the strangest change I've seen in an animal. Maybe he also needed to close that circle, Matthew reflected. Maybe he was also trapped, waiting for someone to face him properly. Matthew got a job at a nearby ranch, working with cattle, using the skills his father had taught him. It was hard work but satisfying. He reintegrated into the community, reconnected with old friends, became a respected member of Wind Valley. He hung the champion's belt in his living room, next to his father's photographs. He didn't wear it. He didn't need to prove anything. It was there as a reminder that he had faced his fears and emerged victorious. 6 months later, Matthew met a young teacher named Isabel. She was a woman with a sweet smile who worked at the town school. They met in the plaza during a festival, and from the first moment, Matthew felt a special connection. Isabel knew his story, but what attracted her most was not his feat as a rider but his humility, his kindness, the way he treated everyone with respect. They began spending time together, evening walks, conversations about dreams and hopes. Martha adored Isabel and never missed an opportunity to remind her son how lucky he was. A year after the rodeo, under a starry sky very similar to that memorable night, Matthew took Isabel to the field where his father used to teach him when he was a child. There, under the stars, he asked her to marry him. She said yes without hesitation. Friends, if this story of courage and redemption has touched your heart, we invite you to leave your like to support our channel. If you're not yet subscribed, press the subscribe button and activate the notification bell so you don't miss more exciting stories like this one. Share this video with family and friends who need a message of hope and overcoming. And please, leave us in the comments your opinion about this story. Have you ever faced your own fears? Do you know similar stories of courage and redemption in your region? Your participation enriches our community and motivates us to keep sharing these life stories of the countrymen. Thank you for staying with us until the end. 5 years have passed since that memorable night. Matthew is now 25 years old and is married to Isabel. They have a 2-year-old son whom they named Vincent, in honor of the grandfather he will never meet but whose story will live forever in the family's heart. Martha, now a grandmother, spends her days doting on her grandson, telling him stories of his grandfather carefully so as not to frighten him, but planting in his heart the seeds of courage and honor. Matthew works as foreman at the ranch, is respected in the community. His marriage is solid. He has found the peace he was seeking. One day, while playing with his son in the yard, little Vincent points at the champion's belt hanging on the wall. "Dad, what's that?" Matthew takes his son in his arms and brings him closer to the belt. This, son, is a reminder that we all have fears, but that we can conquer them if we find the courage within us. Someday, when you're older, I'll tell you the complete story. For now, you just need to know that your grandfather was a brave man, and that your dad learned from him that true courage isn't in not having fear, but in doing what's right despite the fear. The child doesn't completely understand, but the words are planted in his heart. That night, after putting his son to bed, Matthew goes out to the backyard under the stars. He looks toward the sky and whispers, "Dad, I found my way. I built my life. And every day I try to be the man you would have wanted me to be. Not by riding bulls, but by living with honor, loving my family, serving my community. I love you and I miss you, but it no longer hurts to remember you. Now, when I think of you, I smile." A gentle breeze blows, stirring the tree leaves, and Matthew takes that as an affirmative answer from beyond. Isabel comes out and stands next to her husband, resting her head on his shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking about how fortunate I am. About how everything I lived through, both good and bad, brought me here. To you, to our son, to this life I never imagined possible when I was a boy running from his pain. Destiny is strange," Isabel reflects. "Sometimes it takes away things we love, but it does so to give us space to receive blessings we didn't even know we needed." Exactly. And the greatest lesson is that you never. They remain there, embraced under the stars, while the world keeps turning, while new stories are written, while the Garrett legacy continues alive in the hearts of a family united by love and strengthened by overcome trials. Because in the end, that's what really matters. Not the trophies we win nor the enemies we defeat. What matters is the love we share, the lives we touch, the legacy of goodness and courage we leave for future generations. The story of Matthew Garrett and Black Lightning is a story about courage, about loss, about redemption. But more than anything, it's a story about the transformative power of forgiveness and about how facing our deepest fears can free us to live the life we were meant to live. And that lesson, that fundamental truth, is a gift that Matthew Garrett, son of Vincent Garrett, leaves to the world. That true heroes are not those who never fall, but those who find the strength to rise. And when they finally rise, they do so with more wisdom, more compassion, and more humanity than before their fall. Friends who have accompanied us on this emotional journey, we hope the story of Matthew Garrett has touched your hearts. The life of the country worker is full of profound lessons, of moments that test our character, of challenges that force us to discover who we truly are. Matthew's story teaches us that true courage is not in the absence of fear, but in acting despite it. It shows us that honoring our departed loved ones means carrying their teachings forward while building our own future. Each of us faces our own challenges in life, our own black lightnings that we must tame. But as Matthew showed us, with courage, determination, and the support of those who love us, we can overcome them. May this story inspire you to face your own fears, to heal your own wounds, to build your own legacies of love and honor. Destiny puts us through trials not to destroy us, but to strengthen us.